Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'm Vineet Bhatia with Sussman Godfrey. Mr. Hankins, it's nice to see you again.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bhatia.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bhatia.
You have in front of you a binder of material that we're going to use during this cross-examination. Before I get to that, I want to ask you a couple questions based on your direct exam. You said you had a leadership team with a lot of experience. Is Mr. Hostetter on that team?
He is.
How about Mr. Lister?
No.
Okay. You said that the Polyurethanes Division supplies 55 to 60% of the EBITDA for the Huntsman businesses. If someone believed that there was going to be a downturn in the polyurethane cycle, they may seek to sell their stock in Huntsman. With the polyurethanes business being such a large part of EBITDA, it would be rational, wouldn't it, if someone thought that the polyurethanes business was about to enter into a down cycle, that they would seek to sell their stock?
Well, I guess that could be a conclusion from that.
It would be a rational thing to do.
It would be a rational thing to do.
I mean, if you've got a business that's supplying 60% of the EBITDA and you think that business is about to go down, it might be a good idea to sell before that business went down, right?
It would, but I haven't sold a single one of my stocks, so that could be a good indication. My confidence.
Could be your view. Oil prices are high equals higher demand. Oil prices have come down equals lower demand.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
You said on direct, oil prices are high equals increased demand for MDI. You said in your direct testimony that with oil prices being high, that results in higher demand.
I agree.
If oil prices come down, that results in lower demand?
Not necessarily. A lot of these projects are driven by energy conservation, by government investment programs. These are not short-term projects. As oil prices go up and energy prices go up, people start to realize just how critical it is that we conserve energy on a go-forward basis.
Okay.
And MDI is a premier material to take that challenge head on.
You mentioned the hurricanes. The hurricane that hit Geismar, or 10 miles from Geismar. When Geismar's down, you can't make MDI to sell in the U.S. market from that plant. Isn't that right?
When the plant is down, we don't manufacture MDI. We can still sell.
Right, but you can't manufacture a product that you then will sell in subsequent months, correct?
That is correct.
So it is, and I believe you told me in your deposition that at the end of 2007, Huntsman's plants were operating at near full available capacity.
That is correct.
So when a plant is down for 2 weeks, that's a potential hole in terms of product that is available to sell.
Yes, it is.
And that could result in lower earnings?
Yes, it could.
Now, you were shown a copy of the projection from July 2008. Can we see Joint Exhibit 747? Your Honor, we marked it as JX 747. And can we see the earnings page? I think it's slide 12. You were shown a number of $573 million in EBITDA for 2008.
That is correct.
Now, you weren't suggesting to the court, were you, that there wasn't an earlier higher forecast for 2008 for the Polyurethanes Division, were you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I'll explain it a bit clearer.
Sure. Isn't it the case that as part of the 2008 budget process, as part of that budget process, Huntsman actually forecast earnings for the Polyurethanes Division of $641 million?
That was the budget, yes. That was the 2008 budget that was established in July of last year.
Well, it was actually established later in the fall. In the fall of 2007, there was a projection that 2008 earnings would be $641 million, right?
Correct.
And one of the things that happened is when you prepared the July 2008 long-term forecast, Huntsman took that projection down from $641 million to $573 million, right?
No. Huntsman did not take that down. I took that forecast down.
Well, I meant the broader Huntsman. Or you, Tony Hankins, took that number down to 573.
Yes, I did.
And you, Tony Hankins, also approved the original $641 million number, right?
I did.
Okay. So that's a miss of about 11%, right?
Correct.
To the downside.
Correct.
You told me in your deposition that plus or minus 5%, that would constitute world-class forecasting, correct?
I did.
Okay, you missed that mark, didn't you?
I did. We did. But also, we faced significant headwinds here, which I also explained in my deposition, that these were unprecedented times, that of the $200 million headwinds, we will close a gap of 130 of that 200. And at 573, I consider that a very good performance, given the headwinds we've had, and we will close that gap as time goes on.
Mr. Hankins, I'm not going to try to cut you off, but given that I have a short amount of time, if you just answer my question, which you're doing a great job of, I would appreciate it. You can explain anything you want on your counsel's time, and it goes on his clock, not on mine.
Certainly.
You're not going to make the August 2008 monthly EBITDA forecast for polyurethanes, right? Because the plant is down.
I don't know that.
You don't expect to.
I don't know that.
Can we see page 8 of this document? This slide shows capacity versus demand, and isn't that right?
This is a chart that shows, the key thing in the chart is the occupacity.
Right. Is there anything on this chart that would give the court information about contribution margin?
No.
So you wouldn't want the court to believe, as I think was suggested in your direct, that there's some relationship depicted here between occupacity and contribution margin.
As I said earlier on, below 85%, I think there's a direct linkage. Above 85% is a very complex model.
Okay. Mr. Huntsman testified earlier today about the effect of...
I thought that was the suggestion made by your expert.
It is, Your Honor, but it's not on this chart.
And you just asked him and he wanted to be sure not to make that inference. All right, go ahead.
Well, let me go into that, Your Honor. I want to be clear. You were asked a question about the difference between 2004 and 2005, right?
I think I use that as an example to demonstrate that profit and occupacity are not linked.
But does that difference between 2004 and 2005 tell you anything about what actually happened to the contribution margin during that time period?
If the profitability increased, my expectation would be the contribution margin increased.
But it could also be explained by an increase in supply, such as a new plant or something like that.
It could be increased by supply or the degree of derivatization of end uses that we've been selling into. That's why it's a complex relationship.
Yes. Mr. Huntsman testified earlier today about the effect of foreign exchange on manufacturing costs. Were you here for that?
No, I don't believe so.
In the polyurethanes business, when the dollar is weak, earnings are higher. Correct?
It's a complex relationship because we manufacture and sell. Well, we manufacture in 3 regions and sell in 93, and it's just not it's a complex relationship between many different currencies, the euro, the renminbi, the Vietnamese dong, and the US dollar. So, I think that, again, that's, a complex relationship to look at. We manufacture in euros. When the dollar weakens, our costs, or strengthens, our costs go down in Europe.
But I asked you in your deposition about that complex relationship, and you told me that the net effect of that complex relationship was that as the dollar weakens, the polyurethane business earnings increase, right?
I'd need to check the deposition. Maybe I was referring specifically to parts of the European business.
Okay. Well, we will get to that. When the 2008 forecast was set for polyurethanes, there was an increase in the forecasted earnings based on a further weakening of the dollar. Isn't that right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So, as the dollar strengthens, at least as it relates to the polyurethanes business, the earnings of that business will decline.
For sales which are foreign currency denominated, where we have no local manufacture to balance the costs off, that would be correct.
Okay, and there's an assumption in the July 2008 model that we're looking at of $1.57 for the euro-dollar exchange rate, right?
I believe that was the assumption.
You believe that business forecasting is a very imprecise science?
No, I would say that there is a degree of science associated with it. I don't believe it's imprecise. I think there's many ways to reduce the variables of forecasting.
Let's take a look at your deposition. At page 45, line 23 to page 46, line 6.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please?
Can you take a look at your deposition? The question is on page 45, line 23. We can pull that up, and it's on the screen.
You want to look in the book, the pages run backwards.
Are they?
Yeah, they're.
Is that your deposition? Your Honor, if you look in my binder, I think the binder that I submitted has it the right way, but
I can read it this way.
okay. And I asked you the question, in a business that did or is projected to do $573 million of EBITDA in 2008, what's relatively minor to you? And you say, I believe a business forecasting is a very imprecise, they have sign, but what you said is science. That's what you said in your deposition, right?
Well, I don't think that's a fair reflection of the conversation we're having. I think, if I remember right, we're talking about the wider picture of forecasting in commodity versus specialty businesses.
Okay. Mr. Hankins, the July 2008 forecast was a high-level top-down forecast, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat this again?
The July 2008 forecast was a high-level top-down forecast, right?
Yes, it was.
There was no attempt to verify those numbers through a bottom-up process?
No, there wasn't, but Mr. Hosted and his team have an extremely good feel for that bottom-up situation.
Normally, budget forecasts are used for compensation decisions, correct?
Say that again, please.
Normally, the budget forecasts are used for compensation decisions, correct?
The annual budget is used for compensation decisions.
The July 2008 forecast is not going to be used for compensation decisions, correct?
My expectation is the 621 I forecast for my division will become the budget.
Okay. But as of now, it is not being used for compensation decisions.
Compensation has not been yet set for 2009.
There's a difference between the forecasted earnings for polyurethanes between Hexion and Huntsman in 2009, right?
Are we referring to Mr. Zacharides' testimony here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, there was a difference.
Okay. Now, in 2008, both Huntsman and Hexion are projecting approximately the same amount of earnings for polyurethanes, right?
I believe that's correct.
It's about the current estimate for both companies is around $570 million.
Correct.
In 2009, the Huntsman forecast goes to $621 million. The Hexion forecast goes to $506 million, right?
Correct.